caramelized carrot soup. Now, when you see caramelized, in almost all cases, they're wrong. There is a wonderful thing called caramel, but whenever you're talking about a caramelized food, it's almost always some version of the Maillard reaction. But Maillardized doesn't sound good on a menu, whereas caramelized does, so cooks tend to call it caramelized. Now, the great thing about caramelizing stuff is that you get this wonderful brown colors, you get a bunch of interesting flavors. It's a fantastic way to cook any vegetable that has some sweetness to it. Normally, you have to get the temperature pretty high. In particular, the temperature has to be higher than the boiling point of water. So it only browns once it dries first, and that gives you a bunch of problems. But that's not true if you do two things. If you increase the pressure, you can make the temperature quite hot and not have water boil. And if you increase the pH, you make it more alkaline, you can actually make the chemical reactions responsible for the browning occur at a lower temperature. So here is a pressure cooker. Here is a pressure cooker cut in half. This happens to have stock in it. We love making stock in a pressure cooker. And of course, as you know, if you increase the pressure, you can boil at higher and higher temperatures. What we call the boiling point of water is really the boiling point of water at normal atmospheric pressure. Lower pressures, you can boil water even at freezing, actually, even below freezing. That's how freeze drying works. And you can boil it, obviously, at higher pressures. So if you typically use about 15 pounds over pressure, that means you've about doubled the atmospheric pressure. You can cook up to about 250 degrees, 121 centigrade. It's great for two reasons. One is it naturally stays exactly at that temperature. So it's the spring-loaded valve is effectively a pressure gauge, but it's also a thermostat. So that's great. But the other thing that's great is by raising this up, you can get the high temperature without boiling the water away and drying the food out. Oh, here's our stock tables. We've got tons of tables in the book. Here is the soup. This is what it looks like afterwards. And now we'll show a video. So to make this, we start off with carrots. We cut them in quarters lengthwise, and we cut the core out. And the reason for this is the core actually is substantially more bitter than the rest. If you make carrot juice, try cutting the core out. You'll be amazed. So now we're putting a lot of butter in. We put butter directly in the pot. Then we add the carrots. Stir well. Here's the magic part comes next. We're going to add some salt, but we're going to add some baking soda. And the baking soda is the key thing here. That's the soda going in. About 0.5% by weight. Typically, salt is 1% by weight, just by the by. So stir this up. Now, the interesting thing is we're not putting any water in because we don't need any extra water. We seal this up. We bring it up to pressure. Little red line tells us we're bringing it up to pressure. Cooks for about 20 minutes. It comes out, and it's now browned. And not only is it browned on the outside, it's actually browned all the way through. So we've caramelized carrots. Now, what we do next to make the soup is we simply put it in a blender and grind it up. So I'm often asked by people about how complicated are the recipes. Well, here's a recipe where the ingredients are carrots, water, salt, baking soda. It's pretty simple, but it's also fantastic. And we've had the pleasure of cooking this for some of the best chefs in the world, and they're amazed. Not only amazed at that you can, by the flavor and so forth, but amazed that you can do it in 20 minutes without drying it out, without doing the other steps. It also works for onions, for beets, tons of different vegetables.